for today's projects. We're going to be putting on Caltracs in the rear of the truck, VASFAB front diff brace. I had an extra one laying here. We're going to see if this fits on here or not. KPM 1500 horsepower fuel system. You'll notice I do have a different fuel filter in there. I'm waiting on some fittings. We'll probably hopefully get that done today. This filter is not compatible with E85, so I do have some upgrade stuff to go in place there. And last off, we got a ported GT Gen 3 Mustang intake that we're going to install along with my upgraded injectors. We're going to try it in A first. I just don't feel like putting everything in there only to rip the injectors and the rails back off of it again. So we'll just adjust the tune for the bigger injectors, even though it doesn't need them, in preparation for putting the supercharger on it here next week. So we'll go through some stuff. Destructions, included some information. Bottom page here is for that GT3 from the All Motor Labs guys, and KPM just put this out for the 2015 plus trucks. All right. So on the VASFAB front diff brace, you got to pull this piece out of here, which has 2 bolts up front, 2 back here. You get this out of the way, show it's underneath that. So now that I have that off of here, you can see you got 2 bolts right here that we're going to use, and then the front one connects to that piece right up there. All right, so you can see how this kind of goes up in here. You can see the back side goes through that. So the bolts over on the back side there, nuts over here, holds it across. We'll tighten it down. It does replace that metal tray here, or it's not going to fit. So these 2 bolts come out, and then the tray pulls off. In theory, you could trim it if you really wanted to put it there, but there was nothing that was actually hanging off of this from where I had it at. All right, we got it up and installed. You'll notice I just left the stuff off of here. I don't want all the extra, a little bit of weight savings anyway. There, that's tightened down, nice and tight. And that's how that brace goes up in here. All right, got them out of here. So you're gonna pull the bottom shackle bolt. This upper one, of course, would not come out because it hit the frame rail, even if you did undo it, right? See up there? So be smart, grab the right bolt. That one comes off. This one comes off. Your 4 U-bolts, or your 2 U-bolts, 4 nuts come off from over there. Get it supported on one side. If you just go one side at a time, you can go through this, get the Caltrac installed on this side first. Got to pull the spring out to press out the bushing to switch these over. So this is different than like VASFAB. Didn't require anything like this. You just put the new bolts and the stuff through it and it went on. The Caltracs does require the bushing to come out of the spring eyelet. And put the new bushing back in after we pressed out the old one. Yes, the shop press is recommended for doing this. I would not recommend a hammer.
We're out of stroke, dog.
Oh no! You will note, gives you square U-bolts to put in here. Yep, this is designed for a rounded one. So if you grab a set of vice grips, you can hold this while the spring's out while you're pressing things around. Take these bolts off, or nuts, and then you can pull this piece off and put the new one on. All right, so quick note on how these go in here. So this piece is going to press into the actual spring. You're going to do that on the press, right? And then you're going to put this piece is going to come through both of these. Okay, so when you go to install it, that goes through both holes. It takes a hammer to kind of get it going. It doesn't just press in by hand. And then once you get it up there, hopefully it doesn't hit the ground, looks something like this. So you can see it's through the eyelet. You got the new bolt, or the old bolt, back through there, and the Caltrac down here. Okay, and then we'll get to this part next. All right, so we got the Caltracs all installed here. You'll notice I've got spacers. If you do the reverse flip like I did, keep the block. It'll give you a nice spacer to go across the top here. Because I don't have the block, had to do something a little different. I threw it out. We've already got the preload set. I jacked this all up, pulled this up. We did drop the tank out because I'm doing the fuel pump upgrade. So you can see there's a couple of electrical connectors. There's one here, one there, and one right here that all comes apart. This bitch, because I could not find a video anywhere of it, I'm going to show you what this thing looks like and how you do this. So this thingy right here pulls down, and once you get it pulled down, you put a pick in on the other side and pick up. So while this is all pulled down, you then use the pick on the inner edge to release it, and it comes off. But you will not be able to pull it off there. You will break it if you don't use something to pry that up lightly to get the thing to release once you've got the part down on it. So that was it. That was my fun on this thing. Otherwise, all these disconnects are pretty straightforward to get off of here. These ones up here, you just pull both of those tabs out. It pops right off of there. You can release the pressure if you so choose. It actually, with it being sitting without the battery connected for half an hour, released pretty well off of this one right here and didn't make that big of a mess coming off of it. But that was kind of where I was at on all those. All right, we dropped the fuel pump in. You notice most of this is plug and play. They'll come off of here. And you route this around. The lines will all line up. So your main fuel line is going to go over here, but we're actually going to have a fuel filter on there. So we get some lines that route off of that first, and then it connects to this one. This is the evap that goes here. That's the fun fitting that I was showing you that goes up to the fuel line. And when you get underneath of this, there's two wires that they come pre-stripped. You just use the butt connectors to attach the sending unit. That you recommend putting the sending unit or the unit in, and then you slide this all the way back that direction and attach the sending unit after it's in the tank. So as long as you don't have hardly any fuel left in there, that's all good to go. So a couple of notes on this. The 38-gallon tank, I think, sits a little different than the picture that shows for a 20-gallon tank sitting on here. So you notice I've got really long fittings on here. Apologies. This is kind of a last second put together. The fittings I was expecting that are straight 10 ORB for this filter going to 3/8 EFI are sitting in customs coming from Canada. Why they got confiscated, nobody knows. They tried sending me 2 sets now. I've never had that issue before. All of a sudden it's just started happening. So waiting on those to finish coming through. Once that happens, I will shorten this up so it won't be quite so kludgy, but this is how I ended up routing this to make this all work. So you can see you've got red wire, black wire. Normally, if you look at this, it shows it wraps around this pump and comes out this way. But this thing is definitely a little wider and in a different angle for how that would do it. It does not fit across there. So we're coming out this way, black wire is just kind of looped over, and our wires are coming down here. We're going to connect up once we get into the next steps. Progress was made. Caltracs are installed. Fuel tank is back into the truck. So the KPM module is all there. We got to finish wiring it, install my GT intake, and we'll be back on the road tomorrow playing with it. All right, so we're getting the intake out of here. You see I already pulled the fuel rail off. There's 4 bolts on either side, right there and there. Those hold the fuel rail on. The quick disconnect to the high pressure flow comes off. Disconnect the injectors. You can pull that entire rail right off of there, get it out of the way. Makes it a little easier so you're not in the midst of all the rest of the routing and stuff around here. When it comes on off, disconnect your throttle, and then there are 6 bolts. Hopefully I just gave you the right number that I found. Holding the intake down, so this thing should be ready just to pop on off. Yep, it's ready to go. All right, so we'll pull it on out of there and then we'll switch to the new one. All right, for your public service announcements on this stuff. I decided while it was in A, I was going to go ahead and put the GT intake on here. We were also gonna switch out the injectors because I already had it apart in preparation for having the ESS. So for those of you that aren't doing the injectors, this isn't a problem, but you'll notice on the ID, the spot that the pigtail comes out of is definitely in a different spot. And when you go to put it in the rail back here, the 3rd injector back on the passenger side, there is a hump on the HUD casing, and it will not let the freaking thing go in there straight and still have a connector to it. So, solution, we're working on this right now. We're gonna pop the injector. So we have a extension that we made for this, and we are gonna get some hot glue gun, fill this with hot glue, get that to all hold together, and then that will allow us to get the injector through there. But if you look on the stock injector from hat to hat, if we keep that level, right, the height difference is quite significant on how that comes out of there when it's in the top of the rail. So that is causing a clearance problem with this GT intake on that cylinder. All right, so moving along into the final steps on the KPM. They do want you to run this inside the cab, put this all inside the truck. It's assuming that you've got a controller and everything else as part of this. I do not have the controller. So what we're gonna do is actually, with Troy's help, get this wire routed underneath here and run it under the truck and hopefully out of the way. So probably along the frame rail, up over this and back to here, which is where everything connects together. All right, it's Saturday evening. Fuel pump's in, it's pumping, got good fuel pressure. New injectors are in. Took it for a rip. Already ran a 13 flat on the quarter and 3,000 feet DA. Previous best was 1319 and 1,000 foot DA. So I'd say the manifold worked. We're gonna get on the dyno and see what the difference is with the GT intake installed. Get the hood up here in a minute and show you what it all looks like. All right, here we go. See what this thing does. We got rip number 1 coming up. Got the GT intake on there, new fuel pump. We're gonna did the injectors because we're doing the supercharger next weekend. See what this does just with the ram air intake. We got a fan blowing on it. See what the pickups are. Go on to do it. Full pull, everything's across there. Let's see what we actually ended up making. All right, everyone, made the first pass. Was talking just a second ago. I did look in the logs. We hit torque control and lost timing, which is actually why it tailed off there at the end of the last pass. So I'm reflashing a tune, got my torque stuff updated. So my driver demand is now exceeding what I just made. According to the ECU, we exceeded torque at about 6,800 RPM, and that was why the tail happened so bad on the graph. So we're gonna go again, see what this looks like. Got some videos from the outside and everything going on. See if we wrap this up in another pull or two. But we were pretty darn close in the first hit. Fuel trims are within 5%, so pretty happy with everything. 400 wheel. Now we're carrying 440, 439, 440, 443. Come on, give it to me. 451. 41 wheel horsepower, just switching to a GT intake. Good. All good. Call that a night.